You've likely noticed that your most useful ideas often arrive when you're doing absolutely nothing. You're standing in the shower, staring at the tile, and a solution that felt impossible 10 minutes ago suddenly becomes perfectly clear. Modern life makes these quiet moments rare. The second we hit a gap in our day, waiting for a coffee or riding an elevator, we reach for our phones. We've started treating an empty mind as a problem that needs to be solved with a screen. To reclaim our ability to think deeply, we have to understand the mechanics of our own attention. We'll look at the biological trap of constant distraction, the energy limits of our willpower, the way our brain processes information in the background, and how we can intentionally connect our thoughts to find better solutions. Our brains were designed for a much slower world. For our ancestors, scanning the environment for new information was a vital survival skill. We are biologically driven to seek out novelty, because in the past, knowing about every small change in our surroundings kept us safe. In a world of infinite digital updates, that survival instinct becomes a liability. When we chase every notification, our focus becomes fragmented. We lose the capacity for sustained concentration, leaving our thoughts stuck on the surface. This constant need for stimulation is actually a flight from boredom. Because our ancient programming mistakes a lack of input for a lack of safety, we sacrifice the quiet time our brains require to produce original work. When we find ourselves distracted, we usually assume we just need more discipline. We tell ourselves that if we were stronger, we could simply ignore the temptations of the internet and get back to work. In reality, willpower functions like a physical muscle. It has a limited supply of energy that depletes throughout the day. Every time you force yourself to stay on task while a notification pings, you are draining that battery until your resolve finally gives way. Keeping a smartphone within sight while trying to work creates a massive energy drain. Your brain has to spend energy hundreds of times an hour just to keep you from checking it, leaving very little left for the task at hand. Attempting to outwork a distracting environment using only raw effort is a losing strategy. Eventually, your mental energy will run out, and your attention will snap toward whatever is easiest to consume. Successful deep thinkers avoid this by engineering their surroundings. Instead of fighting the urge to check their messages, they move the phone to a different room or use tools to block the internet entirely. They set up their environment so focus requires zero effort. By removing the constant battle against temptation, you preserve your mental energy for meaningful work. This also makes it possible to finally experience the quiet gaps in the day that lead to deeper insights. What is actually happening inside your head when you stop forcing yourself to focus and just let yourself be bored for a moment? When we stop taking in new information, our brain shifts into a powerful background mode. While we might feel like we're doing nothing, our subconscious is actually hard at work, sorting through the data we've gathered. This happens because of the way our memory prioritizes unfinished business. When we leave a complex problem hanging, our brain keeps it active in the background, searching for a path forward. Allowing ourselves to exist in a low stimulation state gives the brain the freedom to untangle these problems. Without the pressure of active focus, our thoughts begin to organize themselves naturally. This internal sorting requires us to cut off the flow of new incoming data. If we fill every gap with a podcast or a social media feed, we prevent the background solver from doing its job. Quiet time is when the most sophisticated problem-solving occurs. Our minds need empty space to synthesize what we've learned into something useful. A wandering mind has a unique ability to bridge the gap between unrelated pieces of information. It can take a fact you learned last week and see how it applies to a project you're starting today. You don't have to sit perfectly still to enter this state. In fact, many people find it easier to unlock this type of thinking while their hands are busy with a repetitive task. Going for a walk, watching a pot of water boil, or peeling potatoes are all perfect for this. These activities occupy just enough of your physical attention to keep you present, while leaving your mental landscape wide open. We can think of this as open-loop thinking. The central circle here is your immediate focus, but notice how the most interesting connections are happening in the space around it. When your body is on autopilot, your mind is free to roam the edges of your knowledge, bumping into different ideas until they click. This wandering process is what leads to a sudden new insight. Your brain takes individual, scattered facts and suddenly draws the line between them, creating a solution you never would have found through sheer force of will. Routine, repetitive tasks allow the brain to process information in a way that intense focus cannot. They are the catalyst that turns raw data into creative breakthroughs. To stay sharp in a high-tech world, we have to recognize the distraction trap, respect the limits of our willpower battery, trust our background processor, and give ourselves the space to connect the dots. Embracing quiet moments provides the necessary space for your brain to solve its hardest problems. Boredom is the fuel that allows your creativity to function. Take the time to let your mind wander. Thanks for learning with us, and we'll see you in the next one.